There we go. So welcome, everybody. I am Lisa Shala, the Director of Connecting Communities in the Americas. This is an international network of community foundations across Latin America, the Caribbean, Canada, and the United States. I came to this job about almost 4 years ago in 2020 in the midst of COVID as a former community foundation director in Mexico. So my heart and experience still lies very much with my colleagues in Mexico. They were my teachers about community foundations. And since then, I've learned so much about community foundations in Canada and the United States as well, and just some of the contextual similarities and differences. And this session, this is one of the regular monthly sessions that we have just to get staff and leadership online together in the same virtual room, and sharing your ideas, your strategies, helping you think a little bit beyond what you deal with every day, and very importantly, to feel support from other colleagues in the Americas. It's just been a fantastic way to get to know each other. And I also really encourage you to reach out to each other. When you get the follow-up email from me, everyone's email is on there. So reach out to each other and follow up the conversations. We encourage you to do that. So we have Sergio here also from Tijuana. Good. Matias from Chile. Jesus Garcia just joined us from San Antonio, Texas. So thank you for writing your organizations and countries in the chat. The next thing I'd ask you to do in the chat is, can you write an example of a very specific way that a local business has contributed to your foundation or to the community through your foundation? What is a specific example? It can be through donations, it can be through sponsorship, maybe an in-kind service, maybe technical support. We just want to get in the chat some examples of different ways that businesses are already contributing to community foundations. So we'll take a couple of minutes to do that. Give us an example of a specific way that a local business, or maybe several local businesses, have contributed. So Marisol from Mexico, an event with a cause to benefit the foundation. So they had their event. I think you just sent this to me, Marisol. I think it was the 15th anniversary of a company, and they had an event in the community to celebrate that, and they donated to the foundation from that. Thank you. Landy from the United States says a donation to the Community Foundation for a corporate partnership in exchange for marketing their company. And I'll be having a conversation with Landy later in the session today to get into detail about that. Rick's business support from some of the special events. Good. Also partnering with local banks and financial institutions for loans to entrepreneurs. Good. In-kind donations to sell in a bazaar at Fundación Merced. This is in Mexico. And that's been a real great part of their business model is partnering with several businesses to donate things that the foundation then sells to the community at very affordable prices. Businesses, Jesus, that have created their own DAFs. DAF is a donor advised fund. Many of you have heard about that. They're not as widely used outside the United States or Canada. But that's where a donor would like to create a fund in their name. And they're very involved with what those funds should work for. And a DAF can be created by a company as well, I believe. And thank you, Landy. Yes, they can. The DAF can be created by companies. Okay, good. So in Puebla, yes, the Volkswagen, what do you call it? Factory is in Puebla. So they have a strong partnership with them. Energy Labs, great. These are really good examples. I'll include these in the email as well that go out. So the idea of this is just to get you thinking about maybe different ways to approach businesses from what you've done in the past. Very good. Is Karen on the call? Oh, there you are, Karen. Hi, welcome.
Yeah, sorry, I just got on.
Yeah, did you see the interpretation button on your screen?
Oh, yeah.
So when somebody is speaking Spanish, if somebody has a question in Spanish, you click on English to hear the English interpretation of that.
Got it. Thank you.
So we're writing examples of how businesses have contributed. And I know you had told me that there's a local business that donates, is it 1% of their profits each year?
Yeah. So we have a local recreation sports store that donates and he was actually one of the founders and one of the founding donors of our foundation 20 years ago. So he since then has been putting 1% of his profits each year towards his endowment fund, which is an environmental focused fund. And it's been great. So we're really pumping that up this year and promoting it and hoping to connect with other small businesses, mostly through the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And also through our Downtown Business Association and other contacts and we're also, I'm just about to have a coffee meeting with him. He's never really promoted the fund himself, so we're hoping to do some sort of promotion in the store about his fund as well, and also about him. So yeah, that's our plan.
Yeah, so it's fantastic when you have a strong partnership already that and if, with their permission, giving that visibility to encourage other businesses to participate. What did you call it? The 1% Club?
1% Club.
Yes.
So I don't know that that's the best name. We'll might come up with something else.
Yes. And for my colleagues in Mexico, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Chihuahua, isn't that now a state law that there's a percentage of corporation profit that goes into the community foundation? Yeah. Can you explain or in 1 or 2 sentences about that? Do you know enough? Yeah, the name is Fechak. It's almost called a corporate foundation, but it's not one corporation. It's what do you call it? A coalition of corporations that came together and said that they want to contribute on a long-term, permanent basis. And at one point, they were able to get a law passed in Chihuahua to have that happen automatically. So that's like one of the highest bars, right, of getting things really permanent. Okay, before we have a conversation with Landy, I want to take advantage of breakout rooms right away, talking in small groups. And I'm going to show you, I didn't even open my presentation, so let me do this really quickly. We're going to go to Jamboard to work with each other for a few minutes. And I'm looking for my share button. There it is. So we've done this. Before we get into a more specific example of a community foundation and the partnerships they've made, I'm going to have you go into small groups by language. And think about, give examples of thinking in the direction of a foundation business partnership being very reciprocal. So it's easy to think of businesses as, well, we need to do fundraising. We would love them to donate to our foundation. How can you help the foundation and your community? But we also need to think about, and we have excellent examples of this, how do the businesses benefit from partnering with our community foundations? And Landy is going to go into that in a little bit more detail. But I'll put this link in the chat. First, I'll open it and stop sharing. And then I can put the link in the chat. Here we go. Whoops. So again, thinking about that reciprocal, no, that wasn't it. That's I'm sorry, Landy, that's your website. Here we go. Thinking about the reciprocal benefits and contributions when working with local businesses. Because they also need to, they have their own business model, right? So they need to be able to justify this partnership with a local organization. I'm still getting to the link. Here we go. This should be it. So this is a Jamboard link. And I'll show this as well. Go to the link and you can open it, because that way then you can put comments on it. Is there anyone here who has never used Jamboard before? Okay. I'll share my screen then so that you can see. So on Jamboard, this is a way for groups to participate in a conversation. It's kind of like using Post-it stickers on a poster. So you can click on the sticky note sign. It's like a Post-it, and then you can write ideas on here and save it, and then it'll appear on here. And so what I'd like to give you some time to work in small groups. What are the benefits in a partnership? What are the benefits for the business of working with your community foundation? Let's put these ideas up here. And then put your ideas on the bottom of what are the benefits of the community foundation and the community in partnering with a business. So we're trying to get really, really specific benefits, like what are the marketing benefits? What is the availability benefit? What is the financial benefit? Is there a social benefit? What is it? Okay, so I'm going to divide you into groups. These should already be set up. Does anyone have questions about what you're going to do for the next 15 minutes or so? Let me get to breakout rooms and see who's in here. So room 1 and 2. I'm going to move just a couple of people so that our rooms are better divided by language. Okay, you should have 3 to 4 people in your room, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes. I'll let you know how much time you have. And so think about ideas that you have, specific benefits and contributions, especially the benefits part, though. Benefits of having this business partnership, business foundation partnership. You should see an invitation.
Oh, Lisa,
Say,
¿me ayudas? Solamente puedo verlo, no puedo meter.
okay,
Solo estoy como viewer.
Alejandra
Ajá.
is not joined. Let me try. Huh,
Vuelvo a intentarlo.
what should I do? Okay, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. No sé. Oh,
Ok.
¿sí funciona o no?
Lo
Oh,
estoy
te
intentando.
muevo al otro. Déjeme poner otra vez.
Solo lectura.
A la 2.
No, pero no room.
Did that-
Um,
¿No funcionó
el link.
tampoco?
Es que el link en el Jam no puedo mover, poner
Oh, en el
esto.
Jamboard, en el Jamboard.
Ajá.
Ya entendí. Déjame checar.
Sí, en el Jamboard solo estoy como viewer.
Says anyone with a link. Okay. Yeah, editor.
Ok, muchas
Ya,
gracias.
ya. Okay,
Gracias, voy a intentar.
okay. ¿Ya puedes? So Martin Leo, we will be back at 21. About 1:40, between 1:40 and 1:45, my time. Welcome back. Everyone, you have some great ideas on here. Let me just share the screen again so that we can take a look at some of the ideas. I saw a lot of comments about like how we can work collectively with the business sector in helping them define strategic areas to work in and doing it together with the foundation, working together in a collective way, which I think is really positive. Really good. I can see that a lot of you have spent time thinking about these things. And I will include this information in the email, in the follow-up email to you all, so that you have these ideas for you. We won't go into them very much today. What I'd like to go to next is to have Landy introduce herself while I get her screen up. So Landy and I had a conversation, when was it, last week or a couple of weeks ago, just about what their foundation in Western Massachusetts is doing in the United States. And some things that will hopefully be helpful in a few different areas. So let me share that screen with you, Landy. In the meantime, do you want to just introduce yourself and your foundation?
Absolutely, yes. My name's Landy Van Allen. I'm the Director of Development at the Essex County Community Foundation. And we are actually in Eastern Massachusetts. We are north of Boston. And we cover 34 cities and towns. And we serve about somewhere around 800,000 people live within our service area.
Very good. Now, Landy, I took this off of your website, and actually the link is here on the bottom. I'm not going there now, but the participants can see where that is. So you have a whole page on your website about corporate partnerships, which is rather unique, I think. And you have two other things on there that were really interesting. One is sort of a brochure or a pamphlet that you have available for local businesses. And then you also have a video. And this is actually the video is found on this page at the bottom here. So the video is of a local business person who's been partnering with the foundation for a while, kind of explaining why he thinks it's a value to his business to really partner with the foundation and what it's meant to them over time. So I really like that. And then in the brochure or the pamphlet that you provide is this chart, which gives different options should they want to make donations through the foundation, for whether it be part of their social responsibility platform or simply wanting to donate to the foundation to support the foundation itself or to organizations through the foundation. Can you just kind of walk us through really briefly how to read this chart?
Sure. Well, just to give you a little background on ECCF, our organization is 25 years old. We were founded in 1998, and we really focus on building organizational capacity within the nonprofit sector here in Eastern Massachusetts. You know, we provide people with data and analysis to sort of identify what the most current issues are, and then we just come up with strategic initiatives to try to address those issues. So this chart displays our corporate partner benefits, and we use it when we go out and solicit corporate partnerships. Our corporate partnership program is a year long. It's January through December. And we start soliciting companies, I would say, somewhere in around November. So we'll send out this packet to our contacts, and then we'll call and follow up and ask if they would like a meeting or what have you. And usually we have about 40 to 50 partners each year. This year, our goal was 225,000 in corporate partnerships, and that helps offset our operating budget. And this year we have about 48 partners on board so far, including 3 presenting level partners, which is really exciting. You can see the presenting level is the highest level. And so this packet basically describes the marketing benefits that we offer to the company when they decide to partner with us. So you can see it's tiered, with different prices for each level of sponsorship. A lot of our first year partners decide to come in at the benefactor level, which is, just sort of the starting level of 2,500. And we've broken this chart up into different sort of categories. So we've got complimentary registrations, and those are invitations to our events. We usually have 2 events throughout the year, and then we also have a virtual sort of workshop series. And so the organizations get invited to those events. Some of those events, the workshop series attracts up to 1,300 registrants, so it's really a significant promotional opportunity for them. And then some of our live events attract like 400 to 500 people. Let's see. So the marketing benefits that we describe are designed to show businesses that to show that they align their values with ECCF and what we stand for. Our highest tier partnership gets a customized 2 to 3 minute video, which is what Lisa was talking about. And in that video, we usually interview their CEO or some other high-level employee that likes to talk about how that company is committed to ESG and why they believe in Essex County and what our strategic initiatives impact is continuing to have on the community.
Landy, what does ESG stand for again?
It stands for environmental, social, and governance. And so this is sort of a catchphrase for, trying to address the racial reckoning and trying to promote equality. And a lot of companies these days have embraced the philosophy of ESG. And in fact, in our breakout room, we were talking about how a lot of companies actually have adopted an ESG statement so that they are actually, legally bound to practice and engage in ESG.
So having that knowledge in the foundation and being able to talk to them about those goals, whether they already have the program or maybe have heard about it and are curious about it, you are there sort of as an expert to help them
Exactly.
along. Yeah.
Exactly, because we are really representing the nonprofits that we serve, and a lot of these nonprofits are addressing, climate resilience or homelessness or, housing instability and hunger and, childcare and all of those sort of basic human needs. And so we sort of find ourselves as like a translator or a convener, to bring the corporate entity together with the nonprofits and sort of represent both of those voices.
I'll stop sharing, but let's continue the conversation. You also mentioned, Landy, in our conversation the other day, that sometimes you're able to work with them. Well, this is kind of related on DEI, or what we call in the United States, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. This is such an important question. As we all know from the racial reckoning that happened, at least here in the United States in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, there's been a surge in awareness of the systemic racism that is built into our institutions here in the United States, and I would argue beyond our borders as well. So at ECCF, equity is our North Star. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is a foundation of all of our strategic initiatives. And we encourage our family of fund holders to embrace organizations that are demonstrating these values and that are out in the community trying to tackle a lot of these issues. Among our corporate stakeholders in this area, the interest in ESG, like I was saying, has grown immensely. And because of this increased focus on ESG and corporate responsibility, the Essex County Community Foundation has emerged as a natural partner for them in furthering these values. And I would say our positive influence on nonprofit leaders in our region and our impact on BIPOC communities and businesses helps our corporate partners recognize the important role that we play in making a difference in the communities that they serve and where their employees work and where their customers live.
Yeah, yeah. Landy, is someone from the foundation a member, or is the foundation a member of the local Chamber of Commerce or Business Association? What is your tie there?
Yes, I was actually going to get to that.
Okay.
So our CEO, I don't know if she's still on the board. She was on the board of the North Shore Chamber of Commerce for several years. And we do have a few trustees that are currently on the Chamber of Commerce. So we do partner with them regularly, and, you know, we sort of go to each other's events, and, you know, they provide a lot of support for us.
Mhm. I've heard that a lot across community foundations, actually, and across countries, that that's a very, very good relationship for this a bit of the publicity, right? Who are we? We've been in the same room so many times that starts to kind of build that trust.
Exactly. Well, and we're both interested in the same issues. You know, we're both interested in the economic vitality of our region and in promoting economic opportunities for people. So
Right.
it's kind of a natural partnership.
Right. Landy, you also told me about a more recent sort of marketing partnership with a specific company and one of their magazines. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So we had been sort of following up with this one lifestyle magazine here on the North Shore for, you know, several months. And we finally sort of got through to them, and they said, oh, well, you know, we're not going to provide you with a monetary donation, but we'd like to do a barter, and we'd like to provide exposure for you in our lifestyle magazine if you promote our logo and promote us at your events. So this for us was a win-win situation. It happens to be our 25th anniversary year, as I think I mentioned. So the extra publicity in this magazine is just wonderful for us. They have a readership of about 157,000 people in our service area. So this is a great opportunity. So we are, you know, doing several ways of promoting their logo and putting them up on social media. And they're giving us a half-page ad in their magazine 2 months before our anniversary event, which will be fantastic. And then they're also doing a feature editorial article on us, which is it's going to focus on, we have a special arts and culture strategic initiative that we've been doing for about 7 years now. And so they're going to focus on our impact on the arts and culture community and opportunities to access arts and culture here in Essex County. So we are really excited about this partnership. They're also going to do some social media for us. And I'm personally really hoping that this is the first of many years that we can build this partnership with them.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you this because this particular one is time limited, right? You write the article, we'll promote the logo for a certain period of time. But yeah, how I think one of the questions that has came through the registrations has been, how do you like nurture the relationship? How do you create this into a longer term partnership?
Well, that is a great question. And honestly, every good fundraiser and every good CEO will tell you that, you know, these relationships are all about stewardship. So stewarding the relationship after they commit to a partnership, whether it's a barter media partnership or whether it's them making a straight up donation, nurturing these relationships over the years is so important. And basically what I try to do is make myself as accessible to them as I possibly can. I email them, I say, I'm your point person. I say, I'd love to meet you for coffee. I sort of try and meet and greet whenever there's an in-person live event, I do my best to go and meet and greet every corporate partner that is at the event. And sometimes that's not easy because I haven't met these people before. So last year we had an event, our State of the County event, which had 450 people. And on their name tags, we put a little flag that said corporate partner. So I was able to see them from across the room during the networking time and go and introduce myself. And then I just really try and do personal touches whenever I can. Like, we just came out with our annual report for fiscal year 23, and I sent them the annual report with a personal note. And then at the end of the sort of funding cycle, I send them a personal handwritten thank you note. And that, of course, is my effort to tee them up for next year.
Yes, yes, of course. And I have one more question, but just for the group, we have another 30 minutes. I'm hoping that you can stay because we want to open this up to questions and a discussion after this. But I have one more question for you, Landy. So you've been talking about nurturing and stewarding these relationships that have already started. What advice would you give to the rest of us about beginning a relationship with a company that maybe has not ever been connected with the foundation? Like what is an approach that has worked? Do you just call them cold?
Sometimes you do.
Right? What are some ideas around that?
Well, I mean, I would say use your network. Go to your trustees and ask your trustees to connect you with, whoever they bank with or whoever their law firm is or their insurance company or what have you. We rely a lot on our trustees to open doors for us, and they have been really helpful in helping us to secure some of those 48 partners. I would also say, like you mentioned before, Lisa, use your local chamber of commerce. Look in the back of your chamber of commerce catalog and see what companies are supporting the chamber of commerce, because you know that those companies are invested in your community and they also probably tend to be charitable. So that's another great tool. I would also say, activating your colleagues, even your staff. One of my colleagues, bless her heart, she went and solicited her landscaper, and she solicited, who was it? Another person that, it was like she had just sort of redone her kitchen and she went to the home improvement company, and both of those companies said, sure, I'll become a corporate partner. So, also use your staff. So your staff and your trustees and the Chamber of Commerce. And I also make a lot of cold calls. I mean, the magazine partnership I was telling you about, like that was initially a cold call, and I just kept on calling and kept on calling, not to the point of being a nuisance, but just, I would strategically call, and finally they came on board. So I would say my best advice would be persistent and be fearless, because all they can do is say no.
Yes. And I was actually when I was at Fundación Punta de Mita in Mexico, we invited some business partners to a retreat of ours. And one thing they said was, we probably won't partner with you if you don't ask.
Right.
They were so surprised of how few organizations in the community ever asked them to. And so, yes, being fearless and being assertive in that. But I think also having this idea of what benefits, already thinking about this, what's the benefit to them, right? How can the foundation serve what they're trying to do and welcome them into this partnership. Thank you so much, Landy, for all of this information. I think it's been very helpful, and I'd love to open it up now to any questions that other people have for you. And then I have a few questions for the group as well, if we have time. So Agustin, go ahead. Will you be speaking in English or Spanish?
English, because it's Landy who is answering. Thank you, Lisa. Landy, I see that you have kind of a way to do this. And I imagine, do you have people in charge of doing this, plus your own time on doing this? You put some time of yours on doing this as one of your specific functions of executive director. I imagine that's correct, right?
Yes, actually, this initiative is really solely my responsibility. So I'm responsible for raising the whole goal. I do have a trustee who is on our development committee, who is sort of my partner in crime. And so he really helps encourage the other trustees to get on board and to follow up and to identify new partners that we can approach. So, but I'm the only staff person that is actually in charge of this program.
Okay, thank you. That was kind of the question. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. And Landy, what's the difference between a board member and a trustee?
Oh, sorry, I use them interchangeably.
Good to know. Any other questions for Landy? And if you're interested later, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you followed up with her.
I was going to say, Lisa, I want to just thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with everyone today. And I want to thank all of you for all of the important work that you're doing in your communities, because it's not easy. It's an uphill battle every day. And, you know, you are making a difference and you are making an impact. And you just have to remember that. So I admire all of you so much. And I thank you for this opportunity. And yes, I would welcome any emails, phone calls, you know, any questions about the corporate partner benefit packet. I'm more than happy to field any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to know if anyone else has an idea about how to begin a relationship with a local business. What strategies have you used to initiate the contact and to initiate the relationship? Does anyone have an example of that?
Alejandra wants to, I think. Alejandra?
I was just going to ask you, Lisa, since you already worked in Mexico, do you think that what was Landy was telling us about working with the companies and the organizations, do you think that works here in Mexico? But because in Querétaro, it's I don't know how it gets to the companies and ask them. Like we kind of work like that, Landy. Like we offer the companies different kinds of things they could get if they give us the money and we work in the community. And we haven't gotten, well, any. So it's kind of hard. And I was telling my other friends in the other chat room that we work for Kellogg's and we were working with them more than 10 years. And for them to give us money or a donation, it's just really hard. We really just get like this 10 or 15% for the administrative costs, and that's it. So since you work here, Lisa, do you think we could do that? Maybe we're missing something, or maybe it's the place we live in. I don't know. I would just want to hear your thoughts.
That's a good question. It's funny, Alejandra, because when I speak to a lot of people in the United States, I always talk about Mexico and how much I saw foundations working with their local businesses and corporations, but not always for donations. So I don't know, Landy, if you feel like maybe the budget is larger. Like, where does the money come from in a company? If they're paying the $10,000, what budget line is that in their company?
Right.
Because
Well,
that
so-
might be the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two different buckets usually for these companies. One of them is the marketing bucket. So they are interested in aligning their values with the environmental, social, and governance, and that's sort of part of the marketing. The other bucket is their philanthropic bucket. And so, for example, we have a lot of banks that are our corporate partners, and they have a whole charitable foundation. And so I usually have to apply through the foundation to get that money. And it also happens that, we usually have a trustee or our CEO who may or may not know some of the higher ups at the bank, so they can support our application with an email after we submit. So those are the two buckets, the philanthropic bucket and the marketing bucket. And I don't know, Alejandra, I don't know how the charitable system works in Mexico, whether there are nonprofit organizations. I mean, here in the US, we have something called 501c3 status through the IRS.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
allows
Mhm.
for companies to get a tax deduction if they make a charitable contribution. But I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, and we do community foundations. Any nonprofit organization can apply to have that status. But it's a very long process. There's a long reporting around it. So if I think I'm correct in saying the majority of social organizations in Mexico don't have that tax deductible level, and it's been especially challenging in the last few years to hang on to that. I know in my experience at Punta de Mita back then, I mean, it was 5 years ago, but we'd often get the comment from companies that, well, we don't have that much money to give away. We don't have that in our budget. But they would ask, how can we partner in other ways? And so could it be through in-kind, through technical services, either for the foundation or for some of the nonprofits, for example? I think this marketing budget approach is very interesting. Well, if you can't, if you're not able to support financially directly with money, could we talk about a marketing partnership? Like, what would that look like? And so the examples that you gave were very good. There is another question from people who registered today about helping to coordinate volunteers. Do any of your foundations work with a corporate volunteer program at your foundation? No?
We don't coordinate volunteers, but I've always thought, and again, this takes a lot of coordination, so I don't know if this is going to happen, but I love the idea of being sort of a clearinghouse for volunteer opportunities. And so because we serve, 4,000 or so nonprofits here in Essex County, I don't know the technical ins and outs of this, but I always was curious, for some of our fund holders and people that really want to get involved in the community, and for, people that have employees, corporations that have employees that want to volunteer. I always thought it would be a great idea to create like a calendar of volunteer opportunities, not necessarily for ECCF ourselves, but for the local food bank or for Habitat for Humanity, building affordable housing, or for, the domestic violence, shelter, or what have you. But we don't do that, but that's a dream that I have.
Yeah.
May
So
I say something?
yes, go ahead.
I recommend you. There's quite interesting. There's an organization in Argentina. I'm going to put the name here. It's called FONSELP. And FONSELP not only manages for the corporation or help you organize, that is schedule. That the only thing is that it's in Spanish though, but it's the help you manage that schedule, plus also all the in-kind donations of the company that want to do. And the community foundation can manage all that, and then they say, okay, this goes to this one, this goes to that one, we can organize that. So it's quite interesting. If that is something, Lisa, that would you like to know more about, I can perfectly put you in touch with Matias, and he can present here sometime about funds
Right.
in Argentina. It's quite interesting. He's supported by Illuminate. He's supported by other companies, other international foundations. So it's quite interesting. It could be quite interesting for you to see that.
Yes, I think that would be interesting. And by the way, anybody, if you'd like to speak in Spanish with questions or examples, you're welcome to. And also in the chat, you can write in Spanish if you prefer that. We
I'm-
just want to hear your voice.
I'm sorry, I didn't finish one thing. I didn't say it.
Yes.
But FONCEP also allows you to give the ESG things, the ESG impact indicators directly to the company. So it's a huge advantage for the company doing that, because then they just grab that and put it in their report. They don't have to validate everything. So it's quite interesting.
Is this a service that they charge for then? It's part of
Yes.
the business model.
And they charge not to the community foundation, but they charge to the company
Right.
for that.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's a well, you can see it here. He's in English, by the way. Fonsel, home English. You can see it in English. All right.
Well, okay, Fundación Merced Querétaro works with volunteers, and has worked for companies. For Kellogg's, it works with volunteer work. We goes through us. So we manage maybe 4 days in the whole year for their people in the company to go work in an NGO to do their volunteer work. And for Bombardier, we work for them for their volunteer work, and we charge them. We charge a fee, an annual fee, and we do whatever they want in a year. And I don't know, maybe the work we do with, like, we charge them that, and we can do 4 days with different NGOs and stuff like that. We already do that too, but it's just a little bit of money, not too much.
Yeah. But I've seen that as part of the business model of the foundation to offer various services like that to corporations. Of course, in Mexico, in Monterrey, you have Comunidad, whose entire foundation is based on that. They are known as the experts for businesses, for the corporate world, in how to carry out their, whatever that is, their social responsibility goals or whatever that is. And they can receive an income for that then. And what percentage of income that can be depends, of course, from country to country as well. It's interesting, your idea, Landy, too, about kind of having the database of nonprofits and maybe getting information, inviting them to contribute information about, who needs volunteers, what time periods, what type of work, whatever. And in that way, the foundation doesn't have to coordinate the volunteerism themselves. They're just passing on opportunities.
Right. And I mean, maybe there's already software out there, or for any of you software geniuses on this call, if you wanted to figure out how to make a program like that so that all these multiple calendars could be maintained,
Right.
let me know your end product.
Exactly. There's a way we can work across the Americas, Augustine, with some of the good tech people and platforms that can be created.
And the Argentinians are very good about that, and they are very cheap right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to say that, but it's true.
Any other questions at the moment?
I have another question for Landy that I think is quite interesting, that we should kind of conceptualize, because sometimes we in Latin America doesn't have a clear strategy in our foundations to go after corporations or even donors. We kind of are very comfortable to get resources from written solicitations, but we don't do that much of going out to meet with people and to go and meet with corporations. How is that you do that, Landy? You grab the list of businesses and say, I'm gonna go this, I'm gonna cold call, llamada en frío, and to make an appointment. How do you do that?
Well, I do some cold calling. I also, again, like I rely on our board members. One of our board members uses this tree company called Iron Tree, and they, the owner of Iron Tree belongs to his country club. And so I said, hey, could you introduce me? Like, let's go to lunch with Iron Tree. And I had seen their logo on the kids' soccer field and in other places. So I had a feeling that this tree company was already philanthropic. So I would say that those are the companies that are the low-hanging fruit, are the ones where you see their logo on other nonprofit organizations already. So they're already thinking about giving back to the community and their image and all of that. So I try usually to get an introduction from a mutual connection. And if I can't do that, then I cold call. And the same thing with donors. A lot of times I'll just email our donors. I focus on our 1,000+ donors because it's sort of more bang for your buck and I only have so much time. But I will send them an email and say, thank you so much. I've noticed from our database that you've been donating to us for 3 to 5 years. I usually try to come up with some hook like, oh, we're starting a new strategic plan and I'd love to get your input. I see that you're a loyal donor and I'd like to know, your connection with our organization and what you would like to see in our next 5-year plan. So oftentimes I'll try to find some kind of common ground and ask them to meet or have coffee and build everything from there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
So it's getting out, getting relationships, and starting to connect. That's it. That's the principal key at the beginning.
Yep. And I would say, I don't know if you guys have Chamber of Commerce there, but our Chamber of Commerce has a lot of different events. And for example, one I just went to recently, it was a luncheon. They have this whole Thrive Women's Business Luncheon series, and there's different topics for each lunch. And so, you get out to events like that and you just have an extra cup of coffee in the morning and you go and you chat with people and you learn about them and you learn what they do and what their interests are and you go from there.
Good.
Maybe the foundation and the chamber, the business association could do an event together.
Yep.
And promote or give some publicity to other nonprofits in the area. Yeah. So Sergio wrote a comment in the chat as well. He's from the Community Foundation in Tijuana on the border. Sergio, ¿estás allá? Are you there? I wanted to ask if he... Would you like to talk about this in Spanish for us to listen to?
Sí, está bien. Estoy un poco agripado, pero
Oh, okay.
Bueno, en Baja California hay una condición, hay muchas maquiladoras de empresas internacionales muy importantes. Nos hemos acercado a ellas desde hace tiempo, pero es muy difícil porque sus corporativos no están aquí y los presupuestos que tienen para apoyos son muy pequeños. Hemos estado haciendo trabajo con ellos. Por ejemplo, una empresa que se llama Energy Labs abrió un fondo con nosotros para las becas de los hijos de sus trabajadores. Entonces, por ese lado hemos ido avanzando, pero la mayoría no tiene la posibilidad de tomar decisiones locales, las empresas. Ante esta situación estamos estamos diseñando una estrategia para dirigirnos a trabajar con las pequeñas y las medianas empresas locales pero para relacionarlas con los procesos de desarrollo comunitario que estamos impulsando.
Yeah, and so I had that same experience, for example, with banks where they felt like they were not able to donate specifically with money, for example. So then kind of shifting into, well, what could we do together? What are ways that the bank would like to be contributing locally or working with others locally? To start those partnerships. And Sergio, I think it's really a great idea that you're looking also at the small businesses and medium businesses. A lot of times family businesses, they're very, very invested in their community, and so want to and are happy to contribute, especially in kind things, whether it be time or food or people, staff, volunteers for an event. But smaller businesses, if we have a chance to reach out to them, even though they may not be able to give money, they often are very, very willing to partner in other ways. Anyone else have questions or ideas? There was a question on the registration, also about how do we go back to our partners with impact stories? Like, what should we be measuring? And how can we relate that back to our business partners? Do any of you have examples of how you're communicating this impact back to them?
So I'll just chime in. We always put impact stories in our annual report, and which is on our website if anybody's interested in seeing it. But it uses infographics, so we use a lot of data and statistics, percentages, number of households we've provided with internet access, or number of schools we've impacted or what have you. So our annual report is one way that we communicate stories of impact. And also it's an added bonus because the companies that support us have their logo on the annual report. So they get more name recognition. The other way that we try and demonstrate our impact is that we collect data sort of over the years through surveys and other various ways. And we had an event last year called the State of Essex County, where we had 450 guests. The Lieutenant Governor of Massachusetts came and spoke, and we just unveiled this stream of data that we had collected called Impact Essex County, where we had collected data from a lot of area nonprofits, and we just sort of synthesized it and created a presentation. So a lot of times our events show the impact.
Yes. And inviting businesses to that event too is really important then. Not just partners, but existing partners, but also other community members. That's a great way to introduce the foundation to them. Here at CCA, we have a lot of foundations, especially in Canada, but now also in Mexico and South America, who've done vital signs research, which is a very similar model to that. And then taking local data back to community in big events or small events and having people give feedback to what, here's the data that we know about our community. What is your experience with it? And when you bring business people and local government and education and just regular residents to the same room having conversations around that, it gives them an opportunity to feel that participation that could later develop into a relationship as well.
Yes, we refer to it as our convening power.
Yes.
I think as community foundations, that's a big part of our role.
How do you say that in Spanish? This convening, the
Fuerza de
convening role,
convocatoria. Fuerza de convocatoria.
convocatoria.
Fuerza de convocatoria.
Yeah, to bring
para-
different sectors together, different groups of people.
Y para eso, como lo dice bien Landy, creo, hay que trabajar mucho en generar las relaciones y estar muy presente. Entonces, hay veces, creo que Landy lo dijo de una manera muy clara, dijo, yo me dedico a donantes de más de $1,000 porque tengo que hacer redituar mi tiempo. Entonces, lo que eso implica es que ella tiene muy claro en qué está dedicando su tiempo que le genera valor. Lo que yo he aprendido y he visto es que muchas veces nos ponemos a hacer tantas cosas que no sabemos dónde debemos de estar haciendo las cosas. Y creemos que porque no tenemos recursos, tenemos que hacer todo. Pero si utilizáramos el recurso tiempo que tenemos nosotros, los directores, de una mejor manera, habría dinero suficiente para pagar a alguien que hiciera las otras cosas que no son de tanto valor, que inclusive son nada más posibles para un director. Entonces, tenemos que estar claro en eso, porque queremos hacer todo. Y les voy a dar un caso. Me pasó que un director de una fundación estaba entregando las cartas de agradecimiento a los donantes. Y le digo, el costo de oportunidad tuyo de no estar enfrente de un donante o de a una corporación haciendo relaciones es 10 veces más que el pagar una mensajería que entregue la carta. Es que no tengo dinero, es que así nunca vas a tener dinero. Si sigues así, nunca vas a tener dinero para poder hacer lo que tienes que hacer. Entonces, eso es un cuestionamiento que creo que nos tenemos que poner todo el tiempo en la cabeza. ¿Estoy utilizando adecuadamente el tiempo o no?
Yes, we're really thinking about that as at an executive level of where can my time in this
Acabo de mirar, Brigio.
in this position have most. Matthias, would you like to say something? No, okay. Yeah, so what can we do? How can we most use our time and our position, right? As the head of the foundation. But what do we also, if we have staff, how can we best utilize them to have an impact? Very good. Well, that's the time we have for today, but I really thank you, Landy, for your time and all of the rest of you for joining us today and sharing your insight. This is an ongoing learning, ongoing conversation, right? But I will definitely send you some ideas that came out of today from the chat and our conversation, additional resources of other foundations that have strategies. And thank you so much. Have a great week and weekend. It snowed for the first time in Minnesota today. I'm so excited.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Lisa.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you
Lisa.
for coming.
Thank you.
Gracias, Lisa. Thank you, Landy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.